we are at around 636 million hectares, which comprise about 16% of the world forest cover in that context. And also, we also like to also include a definition of forest, not just a tree, not just the forest cover, but also trees-based landscapes. These are those agroforestry systems where we have farming together integrated with tree growing. So in that kind of an arrangement, we actually encouraging forestry into the agriculture setup, because one of the great drivers of deforestation has been agriculture. And this is part of efforts now to make sure that the agriculture is supported to increase productivity, so that farmers do not need to go out into the forest areas. So basically, the forest blocks are, we have the Eastern and Southern African block, which is around 297 million hectares. Then we have the Central and West African, which is around 300 million hectares. And finally, we have the Northern Africa, which is around about, I think, 16 million hectares, which is the smallest. So that's the distribution of the forest blocks in Africa. And one key issue that we are seeing as an opportunity for the youth to get engaged is through development of value chains, because employment is not there, formal employment is not there, but through development of nature-based value chains, the youth can be able to generate jobs, and through commercialization of those value chains, and they're able to also increase income for themselves and also for their families, and also for the communities, as well as for the government through the tax revenue that will be generated from there. So through the value chain approach, we have as an organization focused on non-timber forest products. We have looked at a number of non-timber forest products that can be developed to understand the dynamics of the value chain, from production to processing to transporting, and even up to the consumer level, to understand what really the actors profile, what are their roles, what are the processes, and looking at the flows in terms of the information flows from production to processing to transportation up to the consumer. What is the information flow? Is it efficient? Are there gaps? Apart from that, also we've been looking at the income flows from production to processing to transportation to the consumer level. Where is the income? Is the income at the production level? Is it at processing level? Or is it at transportation level? And is it at the retail level, which is at the tail end of the customer level? So what we have found is that there are very many disparities in terms of particularly the income flows. A lot of the times, the producers who are on the ground, the income levels are not as beneficial as for those who are able to take the product from the production site, process it, add value, and transport it. So in this arrangement, we find that they need to address these inequities, and these are some of the issues that we as an institution we're trying to look at, to see how the producer level can be capacitated to add value, so that they're able to keep more of the benefits, more of the income at that level, because this is the level that is so critical. This is the production level. This is the level where they need to have motivation, incentive to sustainably use instead of overusing, because if the income is low, the tendency then have to go and harvest more so they can get more income. But if the income is high enough, they'll have motivation to ensure that it is there today and tomorrow and to the other generations to come. So we're looking forward to having youth getting engaged in this kind of processes. And today we have been discussing about the various products that they can engage in. For example, natural products industry is another important area that is very lucrative. We have in our country species that are harvested and they're taken over to to the north and even to the east, like gums and raisins. It's harvested here and it's packaged and it's only just cleaned a little bit, and then it's transported, exported to Europe and other Middle Eastern countries, and it's processed there into a product that is now used in beverages, in medicine, and then that product now comes back to us at a higher cost, and we are the ones who are paying the premium. And yet this material is from our continent, so we need to be able to have value addition in our country, in our continent, so we can live the benefits here instead of exporting jobs to the north. Climate change is it's a big issue because we have taken so long to address this issue, and these changes have been happening, and over the years many of our scientists have been talking about it. Many of our science communicators have been talking about it, but the policymakers took very long to appreciate the role that science was making to bring this information to the front until disasters started happening. That's when the world woke up and said, yes, it's time to take action, it's time to do something about this before it gets too late. Already it has gone very far, and at some stage it could have been easier to address it, and forestry is a key player now in addressing impacts of climate change, because it's a north-south discussion, north-south dialogue in terms of developing industry and not developing industry. So we found ourselves in a situation where those countries that had developed their industries, they now have to cut down their emissions, the greenhouse emissions. At the same time, because of the obligation globally, there is a move to request developing countries whose industries are not yet developed to also cut down. But then the dilemma is we developing countries also need to develop, and industries. In fact, in the recent maybe 5-7 years, we have been discovering oil and gas in our continent, and it's an opportunity for us to grow our economies using our natural resources. But now there is that dilemma, and these are the discussions that have been at the center to ensure that everybody plays their role, everybody contributes to mitigating climate change, and everybody contributing to adaptation of climate change. In order to, particularly important is to focus on the impact on the local communities. For us in Africa, we feel very passionate that our local communities are the most vulnerable. Our continent is so vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We have seen in the recent past how drought has devastated our croplands. Our livestock are dying, and we are in a stage because we do not have enough rain and because of climate change. So the issue here now, how can we help our communities to have to be resilient, to build resilience to these impacts of climate change? It's important to engage the local communities and to empower them, to capacitate them in order for them to, when the impact is happening, that they're in a better position to survive, because it is their right to survive in this planet. And one of the challenges that we have faced in our projects on climate change, adaptation and mitigation is the issue of financing. A lot of the time, a lot of our countries, we have developed NDCs, we also have NAPAs, but funding is not there. We don't have enough funding, so we are really trying very hard to mobilize resources, and as an institution we've taken our step further to build this capacity in our continent to enable our stakeholders to develop bankable projects that can attract climate finance, so we're able now to recoup back these funds into the environment, into forestry especially, in order to build that resilience and to minimize the vulnerability of our community. So what's going on in COP27 is interesting to see how the global leaders are taking this step forward. And we are hopeful that they will come with a good outcome, and also that they'll be able to release more funding. What we need mostly is funding, because we have the capacity we have the space, we have the land. We need to restore a lot of our degraded areas so that we can be able to roll back the impact of climate change, to roll back the deforestation, and also to be able to sustain the livelihoods of our communities and also to sustain our economies. So we are looking forward to a positive outcome, a progressive outcome.